Well, hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk. Welcome back to the Grouch Couch, and welcome back to The Legend in the Mist, a tale of fire and ash. That's right, we finally have a title for this here series, thanks to a lovely commenter, which we'll get into in a minute. But around here, we do all different kinds of TTRPG things, and yes, today we're continuing our solo session. This is episode 3, which I'm really excited to get into. As it stands right now, we're going to make sure we at least do 5 episodes of this series before we take a small break, which means if this series gets enough likes and enough love from you guys, of course, I'll come back after those 5 episodes and do 5 more. So make sure to leave a like here on this video. And we still don't have a real posting schedule for these guys, so by leaving a like and subscribing, you'll be able to see when the next video goes live so you won't miss it. And so you can get in your comments so I can make sure to include them in the following episode. Yes. So as a reminder, comment below ideas, story threads, other kinds of things. I ask loads of questions while I play, so make sure to leave comments below. And yeah, we are going to get into a recap as to what the heck has happened so far before we get into our next episode. But before we do, we must take a look at the comments from the last episode because there's a lot of really fun and really good and intriguing stuff in there that we're going to take a look at. So here's our comment section from episode 2. First up, Arcane Dean actually mentions the Mythic Magazine Slice of Life adventure to add in with this game itself, which I think is a fantastic idea. I have a review on the Slice of Life Cozy Adventure article. It's like an overview of it on the channel. You can check it out if you want to. But what I will say, this comment brings me to a good point that I'm going to make. Today's episode 3. Episode 4 and episode 5, I might be bringing in other supplemental things to add in with this game. So this will be the final episode where I only use the Legend of the Mist book to play. I don't know exactly what things I'm going to bring in, but what I will also say is I'm going to do a review after these 5 episodes, and I'm going to include a bunch of things that I think will fit really well with this system, because I think this system needs a little bit more to make it, great. So, thanks for that comment. Also, we got a couple comments about people like, you shouldn't put 1 gold piece into your inventory. I realize that that's not really how this system works, but in my head, I just wanted there to be a negative on his roll, which we actually did 2 negatives on that very first roll in episode 1 because it came back into play, him being late, meeting up with the elder and everything else like that. So the first negative was that he got less gold that day. So I could have made it a small gold pouch. I'm just kind of stuck in my old ways. You know what I mean? That makes any sense. So some more really good feedback from you guys. Really do appreciate it. I love that all of my descriptors, you guys have actually been really enjoying those. I worry that I describe too much sometimes when I'm playing with a group and stuff, like I feel like I talk too much, but I think the system is perfect for it. So my descriptors get to shine for a little bit, and I'm really happy that you guys have been We also got multiple comments about bringing a duke in as royalty, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to roll a yes or no question and some oracle stuff to see if it is a duke, because I think a duke is perfect. But what if it's also like the king's right hand that is really magical, It could be something a little bit more spicy as well. So we're going to roll some dice on it. We also got a bunch of suggestions for Bastard Son replacements, and I appreciate you guys for that. I think there was like a total of 4 of them. And the one that I really liked the most was Mysterious Lineage or Noble Blood. I don't want to necessarily say that he is noble, right? We know that he's connected somehow to the kingdom, but we don't know if he's like the bastard son of the king or something. It could just be a classic story like that. It could very much so be that, but I think we're going to go with Mysterious Lineage here from Onion Kid because it's just keeps it a little bit more mysterious, and we might actually be able to use that as a tag in more situations than just with royalty, if that makes sense. Also, Tale of Fire and Ash is the new title of the podcast, and it came from Onion Kid. So everyone, can we get some hype in chat for Onion Kid? Because it's a very good suggestion for the title of this series. And I think it's just going to be Of Fire and Ash. It's perfect. 4 words. Beautiful. Also, John here says, a word on tags. So the cook's son can impart other useful modifiers. It implies that Finn learned cooking and baking from a young age and is skilled in the art of the use of these tools. He can also rate the cooking of others and offer advice on improvement. So if he sees someone else cooking, or we meet someone who's trying to like cook something over a fire or something, he could also help them, and he could also be a part of like eating contests or like cooking contests or something. And he could have, bonuses on those things. And the Bastard Son can impart fortitude, patience, endurance, and empathy, just like Jon Snow, which in my head, Finny and Ash and Jon Snow, they're like kind of similar in that kind of way. So I like that a lot, which is kind of a drawback from us changing it to Mysterious Lineage, but we're going to keep in our head fortitude, patience, empathy, stuff like that, and endurance. Very good. Also, someone pointed out that I misspelled handled instead of handed for the knife. Whoopsies. And I actually double checked. I was like, did I misspell handled wrong? Because I wanted it to be a bone-handled, like, knife, but it should be bone-handed, like handed. Language is crazy. So if I ever misspell things, you guys, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. You know, I always own up to my mistakes, all is well. And the Zenith also has a very good suggestion here. Mere as a place name suffix is used for either name of a lake or a town next to one, which I didn't know. So that's so very cool. Hollowmere being situated on a large lake would be perfect for several story reasons. It explains where Finn goes to fish in the first episode, and it explains why Deacon thinks the town is perfectly situated to be a new trade hub. Lakes are like the highways if you have boats. Very, very cool. So now I have a completely different visual here. I know for a fact I wanted there to be like a mysterious forest on the edge of this village, but I think in my head I'm almost thinking that this village might be in the center of like a lake or like on the edge of a lake. So it's like a pit stop for these traders. You know, people from different directions bring their boats to this here place. It's kind of what he's going for, which also means that we might get to cross a bridge when we're leaving this area, you know? And I'm kind of really into that because there could also be a bridge out of here over a river part, you know? So yes. Also, another suggestion for Bastard Son, not like other folk, which is really, really good. And that's from Panic Satanic. I still love the username, by the way. I think that's it for comments. Guys, please make sure to get in comments and ideas and things, because we will continue to use them as best that we can on the episodes. Yes. Okay, and we have our PDF pulled back up. Very good. We're going to go down to our Oracle. This is the important thing here. I also will confess, over this past week, if you watched my update video, which I think should go live yesterday, I did talk a lot about current and recent life things, so I haven't actually had a lot of time. A lot of times when I'm playing games, when I'm not playing them, in my off time, I'll just kind of like read through them and double check rules and see what else I can add in and stuff, which is a good suggestion for you guys if you're ever playing a game. When you're not playing actively, you know, take a couple minutes each day just to kind of skim through it, read a different page, is what I like to do, and I haven't had the time to do. So we're kind of going to continue playing the way we were last time, and I think it's totally okay, because we're at a good spot. Okay, bone-handed knife from our mother, updated. Also, mysterious lineage, updated. Sweet. Give it a lock. Also, there was a update. We're now in 4.0.01 on Foundry for this here system. The only difference I can see is that now the scene tags is like a pop-out window that you can scroll on. That's the only kind of difference that I see. So the person who's making this is still actively updating it, which I think is very good because it needs it. But that's the only update that I can see. So that's where we're at. Okay, and now we're ready to play. Oh, recap time. So, in our last episode, the Elder was revealed to be a man named Deacon Mirror. Mirror, named after this city himself. Deacon is not a kindly old woman, but a stern man in like his 60s, and he is the lawkeeper here of Hollowmere. He's very prideful and organized, but his motivation is actually to turn Hollowmere into a full-on trade route, and has invited royalty to come here for a feast and for a festival to show the people of the kingdom what Hollowmere has to offer. We also learned that Deacon does not reside in a small hut like we originally thought. He actually resides in a big old longhouse, kind of Viking style. And key story events here that happened in the last episode was that Finn actually received the Elder's Blessing as a status tag from Deacon because of how much he enjoyed his mother's bread. Finn, on his way out, also noticed that the Elder, Deacon, had placed a staff in the ground that was covered in a magical aura, and it was toppled with a horse's head with emerald eyes. And Finn suspects it might be working as a magical sentinel, but he doesn't really know much about magic stuff yet, so he kind of just shook it off and walked away. Also in the last episode, Finn and his mother, Marl, spent the whole day baking and getting ready for this big feast that they were going to be catering tonight. And the village is completely bustling with excitement, and they're cleaning everything. They have loads of carts. There are children playing and everyone preparing to impress the arrival of the royalty. And Finn and his mother arrived to the longhouse with all of their food and had just enough time to prepare everything before the royalty has arrived. And when we got there was a huge description of the physicality of this longhouse. They have completely decorated it and cleaned it up and did all kinds of stuff to make it suitable for a big royal meal tonight. And I do believe that is a good bit of a recap. I also want to remind everybody that Patch actually pulls the cart that him and his mother use. And I just think that that's so cute. Patch with a little cart harness, and he's just like pulling this cart full of bread, and Finn and his mother are walking next to it. You know what I mean? Like, goodness, if I was an artist, I would be drawing that up immediately because it's so cute sounding. So to set this first scene, I feel like it's kind of an important one. So I want to set a baseline of where our characters are as this scene begins to unfold. And I think we should just jump right to the arrival of the royalty. So I think that after everything is set up, all the baskets are full of bread, all the incense are burning, and all the cloths and things are out on the tables. Everything is perfect, and almost all the stalls in the city market have been set up and everyone is ready, and there's still some kids around playing and stuff, but they're mostly helping their parents kind of finalize all of their stalls for the market and everything else like that. I think that Finn and Merle actually have a small conversation with Deacon, just kind of letting him know that they have prepared some fish for them to all eat today, as well as the bread, and I think it's probably real fancy fish. It's like two options here. They've made like some baked sea bass and also some pan-fried salmon, or something like that, that they will serve out and give everybody options, and they used all their herbs and stuff. And I think other people have also brought some small things. Like we previously stated, there was some family members here that were also like preparing some smaller things, maybe like some vegetables and stuff to go on the side and stuff. So they're also gonna have that. So that's the important part of the food. And I think that they do have a little conversation with Deacon about how everything's ready. And I think Deacon is just like, well, now I'm trusting you and your bastard son. These people coming are very important, and we must impress. So please, be on your best behavior. And of course, yes, of course, sir. Of course, we're going to do our best. We're going to bring the plates out. All you got to do is just tell us when. And I think everything now is set and ready to go. And I think out back, Merle and Finn are excited to see the arrival of royalty. So they're standing in the door that they actually came in. They might have a nice little side view of the road. And I think that whenever these boats arrive, because we did establish that they are boats, right? They're going to be like beautiful boats. Maybe I think it's time for a yes or no question, but is it just one boat? I think it would just be one single boat. We're going to start asking some questions and rolling some dice. Folks, that's right. Is it just one boat that arrives? One really nice boat? I would call it likely if I was playing in Mythic. That is an 8, which is more towards a yes, but as we established last time, I have my little chart here still, and an 8 is a yes with a caveat. So it is one boat. We're going to say it's a very large boat though, and it's made of really nice dark oak wood. It has these huge colorful banners. The kind of fabric that you would only get from royalty and from the kingdom are made in these huge sails, like just beautiful dark reds and golds. What is the symbol of the kingdom? You know how each kingdom might have like a little bit of a symbol? I think this is a fun time to actually roll a quick little oracle here. Again, but that's a 35. So 35 is the symbol of the loom. Complex interplay. Two threats combined against you. Interesting. Weaving together. Combining force. The loom. What would the loom be as a flag symbol or a shield symbol? That's a fun question. I'm gonna leave this up to you guys. First comment section question. The loom. How is that the symbol of the kingdom? But we see the symbol on the flag, so we know that it's royalty. And I think they all start getting off of this boat. And as they do, I think that Deacon obviously goes out to get his staff and retrieve it, but I think upon their arrival, he's so busy, he set out this staff as like a sentinel so he would be reminded. And when this magic goes off, does Finn feel it or hear it or see it? Because I think it's some kind of a magical alarm that maybe Deacon can use. I think Deacon's a little bit magical, and his family was, but he doesn't really talk about it to anyone because magic's kind of unknown in this world. And so I want to know if Finn senses it. And this is another yes or no question, but I can actually add a +1 to it because we're going to add in our unknown magic tag. That is a 9. So from our yes or no's, a 9 is a yes. So I think when they're standing outside in this brisk, like fall air, that like crispy crisp that when you step down on like some leaves and you hear them crunch a little bit. But it is like the afternoon now, right? So the sun's setting a little bit as they arrive, and people are starting to see their breaths in the air. And I think as this sentinel thing goes off, I think that Finn gets like an uneasy feeling, and he turns to look over at the front porch area of the longhouse, and he sees Deacon grab the staff out of the ground. And as he does, there's like this magical pulse that comes out of it. And Finn turns to his mother and he's, "Did you see that?" And she's like, "What's that, dear?" There was like some weird like energy thing that just with Deacon and that staff. She's like, "Oh dear, I'm sure you're just stressed. You're seeing stuff." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I think he makes eye contact with Deacon when it happened. Deacon looks back at him like, "You've seen that?" And then they go back to looking at the royalty. This is important because this magic part of our story is something we need to keep touching on because Finian's connected to magic weirdly, right? Because of his mysterious lineage. So we have to keep touching on it as much. So, now we need to ask some questions. The royalty is going to probably be greeted by some of Deacon's family at the docks, and they're going to lead them up to the longhouse for this meal. But as they're approaching with the family, they're probably, a couple of them are probably on some horses, and there's probably a small little cart they like pull off the boat. This is a huge boat, right? So they probably brought everything they needed with them, and so they bring the horses off and the cart off of the boat, and they're riding up. And as they get up to the longhouse, I think this main member of royalty is going to step out of this cart, and I want to ask some questions to see exactly who this is. Now, is it a duke? We don't really know, but I want to call it really likely. I'm actually going to give it a +1 here, and we're just going to do a quick roll to see if it is a duke, right? And I'm actually going to give it a +2, and I'm actually going to add in our mysterious lineage on there. So we're going to give it a +2 just to make it a little bit more likely. That's a 10, so yes. It is indeed the Duke. Now what we can do now is we actually could roll to see some descriptors about the Duke here. So we're just going to roll 2d6, say 24. Spying falcon, seeking information, going beyond limits, flying, a hunter. Or, nope, that's it. These are just added to the spying falcon. That's what the Duke's descriptor is, the spying falcon. See, I would probably use Uni, the NPC generator for this. This is kind of what I'm talking about, like some other supplements that I would probably use in addition with this system, right? But this is kind of what we're given, and this is the final episode that we're going to be doing this. We're just using only the oracles that they include in this book, right? So the spying falcon. To me, the Duke steps out. I don't know why, but I imagine the Duke has an eye patch. And I imagine him not is like... Actually, one thing I want to do here real quick. Okay, so those of you guys who don't know, because I'm not like super familiar with it, a duke is a male title, either of a monarch ruling over a duchy, it's a weird word, or a member of royalty or nobility. As rulers, dukes are ranked below emperors, kings, grand princes, or grand dukes. So they're basically right below them. And we could also see here, dukes were the rulers of provinces and the superiors of counts in the city. It is the highest rank below a prince or a king. So he's right up there. Like, it's not the prince, but it's like right below that. So I imagine the spying falcon. I imagine for sure he's got an eye patch and like a graying chin goatee. And I think he steps out of his little cart. And I don't think this is like one of those kind of like fat dukes that just sit around eating all day. I think this is a duke that takes action with the spying falcon. He's some kind of a hunter. Maybe he's like big game hunter kind of guy, you know what I mean? So he's got like a, would there be a single shot rifle in this world? Because I imagine him with a single shot rifle. But as soon as we say that, that makes it canon. Maybe not. A big crossbow. He's for sure got a big old crossbow over his shoulder. He's got like some brown leather boots and cauldrons on, you know. I feel like the sides of his head are like shaved, and he's got like one of those like braided ponytails. And you can see like a scar kind of coming out from underneath his eye. So he's like not a very nice duke, is what I'm imagining. And that's what I got from the spying falcon. And it also says a hunter. Now, being that he's kind of like a go out and get her kind of guy, I don't think he'd be traveling with a lot of like bodyguards, you know what I mean? Probably just a couple, because I think that the kingdom would be like, Duke, you need bodyguards. You can't keep going out by yourself. You need to travel with people, right? Maybe this is even like one of those situations where he doesn't even want to be here, you know? He's just like, I got pulled away from hunting and I have to be here now because the king has forced me to come and check out this new trade route. Maybe there's even something in it for him. We'll roll on that later, because maybe he's a big game hunter, right? So maybe he himself kind of sells and bids in like mysterious animals and weird stuff that he captures and kills and stuff like that. So this trade route scratch what I first said, this trade route is actually kind of important to him because he wants to be able to trade things through here. So he doesn't want to be here doing this, but he is here because he's invested in it. And that's why the royalty themselves came to check out this trade route. I like that a little bit better. So what my other question is, he needs to be traveling with somebody, right? And so I'm gonna roll a d4 to see how many like personal guards he kind of had. 2. Okay, that makes sense. So it's a duke and 2 personal guards. Now, I want to roll a yes or no to see if he's with anyone else from the kingdom. Like maybe the king doesn't trust it, and so the king is like, I'm sending you with someone else to keep an eye on you, to make sure that you make the right decision, etc. Maybe it's like a friend or like magical consult of the king, which I would really, really like. That would be awesome. So we're actually going to, before we even make our first skill check, this is crazy. We're really building out this scene here. We're gonna roll another quick action, and since I'm gonna call it likely because that makes sense to me, we're actually gonna add on. I know it says negative, but we're gonna add in a positive of both of those. We're gonna add in a +2, and we're gonna make a quick roll because I'm gonna call it really likely. Okay, that's an 8 +2, which makes it a 10. Cool. So he is traveling with the magical consult of the king. Now, as I've previously stated, I think he steps out of the cart after and I would like to get a quick description of this character. With their magical consult, there's only a few archetypes they could probably fit in, but I want to know if, I guess here's my first question. And we're going to call it straight up 50-50, so we're not going to add any pluses. Do they have orange hair? That is a 7, which makes it a no, but. So there's a no here, but it's a caveat. Maybe we can't see it yet. Maybe they're wearing a hood. Or maybe they don't even have it, but maybe this is the situation where, like, they don't have the orange hair, but they might know someone who does, which I think is also perfect here for that. So, a no but. They don't have orange fiery hair and green eyes, but they know someone who might. And so let's actually pop back over to our descriptors here, and let's go ahead and get a quick descriptor of the magical consult themselves. That's a 44. The well, temptation, taint, or despoilment, dangerous locations, a mysterious stranger. What you buying? You know what I mean? What you selling? Okay, so they are mysterious, very in their way. So that means they're going to fit into the first magical archetype where they're wearing like a cloak, and they've got the cloak, it's like over like a hood over their face, so we can kind of see like their chin a little bit, and just for a little bit of diversity, I think they actually have a little bit of a darker skin complexion, you know what I mean? Like they're not pale skinned like Finn. They could be, you know, from a different place of the world or something like that, and but you can see maybe underneath their hood, if they look up a little bit, you can see that their eyes are like white on white, like that kind of magical thing. And also their hands are a little bit shriveled, and you can see them maybe like Emperor Palpatine kind of stuff over like some big old like hood, you know, like saggy sleeves. Why can't I think of the word sleeves? That's weird. Their hands are like stick, and I think they probably also have a staff with them, but I don't think it's got like the horse and the emerald eyes like Deacon's. I think it's just like a very strange piece of wood, like curled up, and maybe it's almost like an ash wood kind of thing, like it's a grayish kind of wood. And I think as he steps out onto the ground, he kind of like is taken back for a second, like he knows something's amiss. And I think Finn sees him and stares at him for a little bit, but they don't make eye contact. And I think at this point, this is when Deacon's going to welcome in. So now that our full scene is set, we get to move on. We've got all of our descriptors. We actually get to make our first dice roll here, because the first thing that I just want to check for this next scene, Finn and his mother are going to be giving all the food to the people. Once Deacon calls out and has them bring in their food after they have their negotiations, Finn is going to bring out the food with his mother, and they're going to start giving it to everyone and everything else like that. But I think they're both really, really nervous in this situation. So we're actually going to put on the Elder's Blessing here, and Patch isn't helping us in any way. I think he's probably outside because royalty is coming and they don't want to have dogs in where they're eating and stuff. But he is experienced in this because he is the cook's son. He's got some skilled hands. So I'm going to give him a -1 because he's nervous, guys. So orange is negative. So he's a little bit nervous, and he is a resented bastard. So I think if anyone, like the guards, pick up on it, you know what I mean, they might pick fun at him a little bit or anything else like that. And I don't think that he's really gonna like care too much because he's kind of naive to everything, and he's just gonna keep on just giving their food and stuff like that. So I think this is it. I think this is our He's not persuading in any way, so we're not going to put on his nice eyes. This is just a roll to see how them giving out the food comes, right? We established the scene, and our check here is just to see how this, because he could like trip and fall, he could, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So this is where we're at. Quick roll, here we go. Okay, so it's a 6, plus we had our 2 -1s. Oh, there we go. Cool, so we can actually see it. We had basically a +1, so we got a 7. And a 7 is good, but pretty much. The action unfolds as expected or better. It achieves the goal, but we can also get a useful tag or status. But the narrator decides on a narrative development detrimental to the hero, and can give or remove a tag or status in any way that hinders the hero. So this is kind of a big scene, and I'm just making a single roll on a big scene, which I really haven't done yet, but I feel like this is kind of what this game encourages you to do. It wants you to play out a scene and then make a single dice roll and then resolve the scene from that single dice roll. So a little bit difficult, a little bit out of the way that I would normally play, but let's see here. But here's the thing, a 7 to 9 is a full success with a consequence. There was actually a comment helping me with the rules. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. I always appreciate helpful things with. I didn't show it on the beginning of the episode because it's actually on episode 1 here, from the Toothache AZ, which gave us some fun insight. 9. On our first episode, if you guys remember, we actually rolled to see how the gathering and hunting went, and we got a 9. And they're saying it is a full success and a consequence. So the consequence should not negate the success. He said he would have had him do his gathering, but something else happened. So this is the same for 7. 7 is a full success, not a lesser success. It is a full success and a consequence that should not negate the success. Now we should keep that in mind while we're playing out this next scene. And I think I have a fun idea. So this roll is just going to be on the food itself, right? Because that's whenever we actually get to enter this next scene. There's going to be a lot of other background things happening, but that's not really too important to us. I mean, whether this town turns into a trade route or not, we'll probably figure that out in the background later, right? But for what we're trying to figure out is what happens, right? So again, it's always helpful for me to start describing out loud and just kind of let my brain go. But what we need to remember is full success and a consequence. And I do want to give a big shout out to Toothache AZ for all of the awesome, if you're still watching this video, hopefully you are, for all the awesome advice on the rules, because they were really, really helpful. So I do appreciate that. Okay, so, all right, had to respond to Toothache real quick. So let's describe this moment. The longhouse, heavy with pipe smoke, the smell of wet wool. I think we don't see a lot of their first conversation. I think Finn and his mother rush in to finalize all the food things, not that they've seen that they have arrived. But what we do know is we can peek through the little lattices of the kitchen into the longhouse area, and we can see that the Duke sits at the high table. He for sure also has a fur-lined cloak draped across his broad shoulders, because he's a hunter after all. He's brought his most prideful hunt with him. And the magical consult beside him probably fiddles absently with some kind of a ring that has some kind of magic to it. This might even be something that Finn notices. And Deacon's voice is going to carry low and respectful as he welcomes them once again into the longhouse. And some of the villagers that Deacon has invited along lean in to catch each word that Deacon says to show respect. And after some conversation, the signal finally comes, and Finn and his mother push through the lattice doors from the kitchen hearth. And I think the warmth of the oven clings to them as they're carrying with it the scent of fresh bread and simmering, stew and fish. Is it fish stew? Fish stew makes a lot of sense to me, being that it's a little bit of fall. It's a perfect fall food. Maybe it's a fish stew, because that's why the families were cooking vegetables as well. We're going to go with a fish stew. That's cool. I don't know why I'm focused so hard on the food. I don't know. I need to eat before I record this. So the simmering stew, they bring it out, and the platters are all set down with practiced care from Finn and his mother. Now remember, this was a full success, right? The roasted root vegetables gleaming with fat from the fish, dark loaves split and steaming, a pot of fish stew, rich enough to hush even the most skeptical noble. I think the Duke nods with satisfaction, and his expression softens a little bit, and for a moment, the hall in here feels a little bit lighter, more at ease, now that everyone has their So the success here is that the food is a full triumph. I think it impresses both the Duke and the magical consult and it earns approving glances and murmurs from everyone in the longhouse. I think Finn and his mother come off to these people as skilled, proud, and essential to this village's hospitality and the skills and the food that they can bring to the rest of the community. And not even that, but bring to people who come here to trade on this trade route. But here's our consequence. And I have a couple of ideas here. So the first one is minor. Whenever Finn sets the food down, I think someone with the Duke, one of the guards, does indeed make a sly remark about bastard bread. I don't think it's loud enough to cause a scene, but enough for Finn to hear it, and it does sting a little bit. Even in the glow of his success here with the food, he is reminded that he does not have a father, and that even people from the kingdom will judge him for this. But secondly, and the important one here, because we're leaning in on that magical stuff, the magical consult, while he's eating the stew, he pauses, and I think he senses some kind of a trace of arcane in the ingredients themselves, the very ingredients that Finn picked the earlier that day. Maybe some kind of wild herbs from the forest that carry faint magical, resonance. And that's specifically why Finn always picks them. And that could also be why everyone loves their food so much, because Finn is connected to magic, and he's always been picking all the magical herbs and bringing them to his mother, and no one else has noticed until now. But I think the important thing here is that the magical consult is intrigued and suspicious, and this draws attention to Finn and his mother, attention that they don't want. And the magical consult looks at Finn as Finn scurries back into the kitchen with his mother after everyone thanks them for the food. And I think the magical consult turns to the Duke and says, That boy knows more than eating. Do not eat too much of this food, Duke. Eat only your fill, no more." And he goes, "Why would you say that? Is this food poison?" "No, but it is special. I must investigate first." "All right, guy. I didn't even want to bring you here with me, so do not disturb my meal." I think for sure Finn hears this little conversation a little bit. He's going back into the kitchen, and that's why we hear it. That's why we know it. It's very intriguing. I like that a lot. Is it weird that with the magical guy and him looking into Finn and Finn like doing all this magical stuff, is it weird that it reminds me of Star Wars a little bit? Does it remind you of Star Wars a little bit? It kind of reminds me of Star Wars a little bit. I was not going for that, all right? But you know what? Sometimes we just watch things and it's all in our subconscious, all right? Whoops. So, moving on. I don't think it has any pertinence to our story to know if this goes well or not. I think maybe this is at least the meal and, the negotiations and stuff like that happening with Deacon and the other people and, the Duke and stuff. That's not really important to our story. So what I really want to focus in on and just say is that they eat their food and things go fair enough. And Finn and his mother begin cleaning up everything after everyone. And as that's happening, because of our consequence, I think the magical consult is going to break off from everyone else and approach Finn and his mother, maybe even in the kitchen, while they're like washing up dishes in like buckets and stuff, clay bowls and stuff. I think that he's going to approach them in the kitchen, and it's going to kind of come as a shock to them as he approaches. And I want to roll to see what his attitude is right away towards Finn, because as far as he knows, Finn might have accidentally been trying to magically poison everybody, you know what I mean? Because he just detected some magic in the food, some kind of magical resonance, right? So we're actually going to make a roll for this, which is 2d6, and we do have a chart for it. 14. 14 is curious. Oh, very good. Curious is very good. So he approaches Finian and his mother, and he walks real slow. I think he scares Finn at first, because he gets right up on him real quietly, and maybe Finn feels, he doesn't know that he's feeling it, but he feels the magical presence from the consult, like a pressure pushing on his back, and he jumps. And this is still a follow-up from the consequence, right? So I think when he jumps, he might drop a bowl on the ground and break it, and Finn's mother's like, "Oh no, Finn," and she gets a broom and starts sweeping up. So while she's distracted cleaning and sweeping up this bowl, Finn turns around and sees this guy, and I kind of want to know how this conversation goes. First of all, he's curious, so he's not in a bad mood, he's just a little bit curious, so we're not going to do a negative or a positive to start on this here scene. But he doesn't have any backup. His mother is gone, and his mother mother is distracted. So it's just him by himself. So I actually am going to add in a negative. But we have a lot of positives to kind of add into this conversation with this guy to begin with. So I think everything should go okay. Nice eyes for sure. We're going to do our mysterious lineage, our unknown magic, but we are the bastard, so that's going to come into play again. And I think even if he's mean to Finian, he would still have his heart of gold going on. But he is naive to the world's cruelty around him, so he's right away going to be like, hey, how's it going? Even though it's not good. So we're actually, with all of that said and done, I think we're at a +1. So how does this conversation go with this guy? There was some kind of pop-up right there. I don't know if y'all seen that. It was real quick. It said unknown power tag just leveled up. Interesting. Anyways, we're at an 8, so it goes well, but there is a consequence from this. So, with that, we have our consequence, but this is still a full success, which means that this conversation goes well. So, the magical consult isn't rude to Finn, but there is some kind of a consequence because of this conversation. So, let's begin describing. This magical consult slips into the kitchen, and Finn drops a bowl. His mother begins sweeping up all of the broken bowl pieces. And I don't want to forget about Patch. I think Patch is probably in the kitchen at this point, probably nosing and licking up crumbs on the floor somewhere. And Finn keeps a watchful eye on him as well. And I think right away Finn smells this guy, and he doesn't smell of sweat and travel like the others, but he smells like strange oils and faint metallic tang, as he carries this storm with him. And I think after he turns around and they lock eyes, he can see the white eyes of the magical consult as his hood comes up a little bit. And right away, the consult says, "Boy," he says it softly, watching Finn with unsettling intent. Extreme powerful eyes. "That stew's not only made fish and herbs. There was a pulse in it, a stirring." And his eyes get real narrow and he says, "Oh, in your hair, those green eyes. I have seen them before. You remind me of someone I know, someone I still know." And then I think he circles around Finn, kind of like examining him like a puzzle, like walking in circles. And it really kind of makes Finn uncomfortable, but he says, "Magic, it runs in the marrow of your bones, boy. You must come to the kingdom someday. Someone like you does not belong hidden in a village kitchen." I think Finn goes, "Sir, kind of making me uncomfortable, sir. The kingdom? I mean, I've always wanted to adventure outside of Hollowmere and see what the kingdom was like, but I've never had the opportunity or a reason to go. You must come soon before you grow old and your hair from that orange turns to gray. You must." And I want to think about our consequence a little bit here. And it could be something as simple as getting lectured by his mother later for the unwanted attention. We could bring in Patch, because Patch could growl during the conversation and scare him away before Finn gets enough information. Or we could go even more intense with this consequence and leave the console could leave a mark on Finn. I like that a lot, actually. I think he says, "You must come. Your hand, give it here, while there's time." And he looks at Finn's mother, and she's still sweeping up things. And he goes, "Quickly now, quickly." And he's like, okay. And this is where his naiveness to the world's cruelty comes into play. Because Finn just gives him his hand, right? And I think the magical consult waves his, bony fingers over Finn's, arm, skin, and leaves, a mark. And I think it looks like a black, tattoo maybe, but being the theme of our story, it's going to be in the shape of a flame, I think. And I think it's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt Finn a little bit. As it goes into his skin, it almost burns. And Finn jumps back and he's like, ow, why'd you do that? And he's like, "You must come to the kingdom, boy. Find your way. For if not, this mark will burn every day until I see you again." So this is a negative tag that we're giving Finn here. And I like that a lot, actually. We're going to call it Magical Burn or something. Maybe you guys have a better name for this. Instead of Magical Burn, maybe it could be something else? I don't know. And we're going to remove the Elder's Blessing now, I think, since the dinner is over. It says in the book to just kind of remove tags whenever it's appropriate. And so we're gaining Magical Burn, but we're losing the Elder's Blessing. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I don't know if we're going to get into an actual battle with a bunch of bandits this episode either. It's probably going to come in episode 4 once we leave the village, because there was a couple comments. Building a battle encounter in this system, I think, needs a little bit of work, and I really want to do it to be able to show it off to you guys. Even the last episode, I kind of explained a little bit of how I'm going to do it, and I'm literally going to follow the book for book, like words the first time I do it, to show it to you guys. But again, I don't think we're getting into it here. This is a lot of just like narrative stuff, but that's kind of the name of this system, I guess, especially when you're playing solo. At least for my story. Your story could be way different, so we might not get into it till the next episode. Anyways, after he says that, I think he looks right in Finn's eyes, and Finn gets a little bit of a shudder from this man as he whips around and exits the kitchen. And there's just like a breath of this like smell of this oil as he leaves. And Finn's mother walks right up to him, and she's like, "What was that, honey?" And he goes, Mom, I think it's time for me to leave the village." And she's like, "What?" "Well, we're going to have to talk about this more tonight. For now, finish cleaning." And that's going to end our second scene. Technically, I think that was 2 scenes. It was 2 full dice rolls, technically. So that's going to end our second scene right there. So as they wrap everything up, I'm going to skim through this quickly. They're going to pack up everything, and they're going to put it all back in the cart and strap up Patch. And I think before they go, I think Finn sees Deacon talking to his mother, and Deacon definitely pays his mother what she's due for all the food and everything she did tonight. And she definitely has a big old smile on her face because everything went well. Again, it was a full success, so that's good. And when I say to you guys, when you get a success on something, even when you move on to another scene, I think it's kind of good to remember those successes and kind of let them drag out for a little bit. So the full success on that scene is she's going to get her full payment, which is wonderful. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a hint here. What does Deacon's mood look like now that all that is said and done? What does his mood look like here? 13. So 13 is affectionate. So that's kind of a good thing. He seems a little happy about the way that went, so that's good. So maybe things went well, and they're going to bring everything back to their little bakery, and they're going to take the last little bit of their foods and stuff over to their... Thank you, Adobe Acrobat. I don't want an update right now. They're going to be their last little bits of their food and stuff over to the market. And in this market, I think now that Finn has decided that, with all that being said, I mean, he's always wanted to leave this village. We have his destiny is to leave. I mean, the quest is to leave this world behind. I haven't been keeping track of these quests very well. Always offer kindness, carry the warmth. That's okay. We're still doing good. So the world beyond the village is wide, and I want to see it. So he's always wanted to leave, and I think this little bit of a push from this weird magical consult guy has helped him make that final decision. And I think he's been walking around the market with Patch, talking to his friends and people that he knows and stuff. And honestly, I think what he's doing is he's trying to bargain with people to be able to get some adventuring gear, and he's saying goodbye to everybody. Like, straight up, he's ready to go, even though his mother was like, we'll talk more later, and we're definitely gonna have to have a conversation with her after the market's over. But because of this weird mark on his arm, he's ready to go, and he's gonna walk around and just kind of go to each cart and see if he can get things from people and bargain with people. We have 1 gold, but as we've said, I shouldn't have put 1 gold. I should have put small pouch of gold. So we're going to say that he's going to be spending the last of his gold that he has, this small pouch of gold that he has, because maybe he even had some from the day before or whatever. Maybe has he been saving to leave? I think he has. Let's go ahead and put some positives on here. Maybe he's been saving for a little while. We're even going to add in the Wanderer's Road to give us a +2. Has he been saving up his gold? Oh, it's only an 8. So yes, he's been saving up his gold, but it's still not a lot. So we'll say that he has a little bit of gold, but it's not a lot of gold. And I think I'm totally cool with that. So he's wandering around talking to everybody. And what we're going to do is we're just going to make a single dice roll to kind of see how this market scene plays out, to see if he runs into anybody or gets anything extra or anything special. And he's going to spend the last of his gold and just get what he needs to be able to go. And this is going to include, maybe like a fishing pole and some dog treats maybe, and, a general like rucksack that he might need of things. And if this roll goes well, maybe we'll add in an adventurer's rucksack that might just have some general stuff in it, which I think is fun. So we're going to be bargaining with people. So we're doing all of our good bargaining stuff. Maybe there's some people in town that still resent him because he's a bastard. but he is pretty lucky. So maybe we'll find something extra or get a good deal on something or something like that. And this is where we're at. So we're going to have a spend all of our gold as well. Looks like a total of a +4. So this should go really well. It's a 7. That was almost as low as we could have rolled. That was almost a critical fail, which we haven't gotten yet, but we will soon enough, I imagine. So let's paint this scene, shall we? Okay, so full success plus a consequence. Let's build out the scene here. They get to the market, and the market glows with torchlight. The night just alive with color and sound. Stalls brim with cloth, iron tools and herbs, and charms strung with feathers. There's probably some musicians playing some fiddles and banging some drums, while children are just chasing one another through the muddy lanes, through all the fireflies that fly around in the fall air. And the air smells of roasted chestnuts and honeyed cider, and the hum of celebration masks Finn's mental struggle and turmoil now that he knows he must leave his village, his home. He must leave his mother to adventure to the kingdom to learn more about his lineage and the mysterious words that the stranger has said to him. And with Finn's purse light, but his heart restless, he slips from vendor to vendor. I think he trades and he bargains just like a boy desperate to be a man. He gets some rope for promise of some labor, maybe a dented old pan for one of his last gold pieces. He exchanged his gold for maybe some better boots, a couple of rations and a bedroll, a battered lantern, a whetstone, and whatever scraps of adventuring gear that this village fair can even provide. I think each one of his friends he speaks to offers him advice or a bit of aid. Someone might lend him an old water skin. Another throws a dagger too dull for the guard to use into his pouch. And it isn't much, but piece by piece, Finn arms himself for the unknown as his friends hug him and say, "Goodbye, Finian. You're gonna do so good out there. You're meant for better things." "I know, I'm gonna miss you though." "Hey there, Finn. How's it going?" "Oh, good, Mr. Johnson. Finally gonna leave the village tomorrow." "All right. Good on you, kid. Get out there. You deserve better than here." Etc., etc. I don't think he has any kind of best friends or anything else kind of holding him here besides his mother, really. I mean, he's got a bunch of acquaintances and, they say hi and welcome him and stuff. This is a small village, so everyone knows everyone. So word spreads fast that Finian's finally leaving Hollowmere, and that's why people just kind of give him extra stuff, whatever they might have, because they believe in him. He's always helped them and did what he can, and he is beloved by this village here. So everyone helps the best that they can. The full success here is that he's going to leave the market with a full basic kit of an adventurer. His pockets are going to be empty, no gold here, but he's going to have a nice backpack, heavy with hope, and every piece of rusted gear that he could manage to assemble. His friends rally around him, treating him with the seriousness of someone about to step into something larger than himself, because Finn is ready. In spirit and in supplies. But we need to think about the consequence here. We could go with, and I'm explaining these two to kind of help you guys know about my thought process and also to help you maybe with ideas that you might have. An easy one for me is actually maybe the wrong eyes notice. Maybe there's someone here that's jealous that might see that he's trying to leave. And in the morning or even tonight, they might cause some kind of a struggle, some kind of a fight could happen. And I mean, that's a given. But also, maybe he passes a fortune teller's stall who sees the mark on his arm. Or even, we're here to get supplies, right? We were rolling on supplies. So maybe one of the supplies could be secretly flawed or cursed. And this is a hard choice because there's a lot of different directions we could take here. Would there even be a fortune teller in this village? I don't think there would be because magic isn't really here like that. So we're gonna go ahead and scratch that one off the list. So we're gonna have 2 and I'm gonna roll a D2 to see which one I like better. Or a D4 is fine. On 1 and 2, it's jealousy, and on 3 and 4, it's a cursed item. That's a 3, so it's a cursed item that he received. Is there any kind of, here we go, everyday item? So one of these items, we're gonna roll a D66 on one of these, and then we're gonna throw a curse onto it. Something that someone gives him. Maybe it's a combination. Maybe someone was jealous, and they were jealous, and the word spreads that Finn is stocking up, and someone's like, the bastard boy thinks that he can leave us behind, huh? Thinks he can get out of here. And so this person just slipped something into his bag that is cursed, and Finn doesn't even know about it yet. So let's roll on what this item might be. That is a 64. 64 is, let's go all the way this way, a puzzle box. Oh, someone drops a puzzle box into his bag. So this is really fun, actually. A cursed puzzle box. We're gonna add that into our backpack here, but description of the puzzle box. It's probably small, no larger than, you know, like a fist. Probably carved from dark wood, and its surface is probably etched with spirals. And since it's cursed, maybe the patterns never look the same every time. You know, every time he looks at it, the spirals patterns look a little bit different. But it definitely has like tiny sliding panels that turn gears on the inside, you know what I mean? One of those like wooden boxes. And the edges are so finely cut that it's hard to even see where the seams are to be able to move things around. And when he holds this box, it hums faintly, you know, like a beehive under glass, which makes him excited to get it open to see what is on the inside. But if he rattles it, it might sound like, you know, bones on the inside of there. And it's always cold, I think, because it's not good magic. And maybe to connect it a little bit, maybe Finn's arm throbs a little bit every time he plays with it because the magic is connected there. So also the curse of this, I want it to be subtle. So until the box is solved or opened, it gives Finn restless dreams. Kind of like he always has a little bit of nightmares every time he sleeps out there. In the sense, maybe sometimes if he looks into it too hard, he thinks that something inside the box is listening. And maybe every time he fails to open it, he has nightmares that night instead of just restless dreams. But he's got to get it open. He's got to solve it. Until then, he will be cursed. And so that is our consequence. And I think that's really cool. I like that a lot too. Yeah, I like that. Now we're on to our final scene, and we're going to roll to see how this goes. He is going to approach his mother at night, and they're going to sit together on the second floor of the bakery. He's going to go and sit on her bed next to her, and they're going to talk about him leaving. And he's got everything packed up, and he's ready. And so we're actually we're putting in a negative because his mother doesn't want him to go. But he's got a heart of gold, and he's got nice eyes, and so we're just going to roll it straight here. Also, I'll add in the curse box and remove the gold in a second, but first I want to roll this. How does this conversation go? He's leaving no matter what, but he wants to leave on a good note. So 7. Once again, it's success, but. Okay. Full touching moment here for our final scene of the episode. As they sit on their bed, the bakery is quiet now. I think the village market is finally coming to a still. They're sitting upstairs, candlelight flickers against the low ceiling, and they both sit on the edge of his mother's bed. And like I said, his pack he just filled is sitting up against the wall. Patch is probably curled at their feet, and his mother just smoothing the blanket absently, you know what I mean, not looking at him, but her shoulders are tight beneath her apron. And I think she doesn't even look up at him, but she just says, "You're all I have left, Finn," she says, her voice shaky. "Your father gave me nothing in the world, you know, it took everything else. Don't let it take you too." And I think Finn's hand closes around her, like she holds his hand, and his voice is steady, but his heart's probably racing. And he says, "Ma, I can't stay. There's something out there for me. This mark, you know? And the way that mysterious stranger looked at me. If I don't go, I'll never know who I am or what I am." I think she finally looks up to his eyes, those sharp green eyes that don't quite belong in this village. And for a moment she sees not a boy that she raised, but the man that he's becoming. And I think her chin trembles a little bit, but she nods ever so slightly. And she has heard him. She knows that he has to go. And she goes, "Okay, well, I still have the bakery and my love for baking, and the village here still has our back, and if the trade route opens, business will be booming. I made enough gold to support myself for a long while for what we just did, so thank you for helping me with that. Your determination, Finn, I acknowledge it. I won't forbid you from leaving, but send letters. Let me know that you're okay." And he's like, "Of course, Mom. I'll send letters as much as I can. I'll have Patch with me, and he'll keep me safe." And so I think the full success. So she accepts that he can go. The conversation is a little bit emotional, but she sees his determination and she knows that he can go. But the consequence here is, I mean, it has to be an unspoken secret, right? Like, she nearly says something about who his father is, but then she stops herself, which leaves Finn knowing that there's more to the truth that she won't tell him. And that's the consequence here. Because I was hoping in this conversation she could just straight up give us some more information. But since we got a consequence, she's not going to tell us. And I think one final bit is that afterwards they just embrace each other, and she says that she loves him and she wishes him luck, and he says, I'm leaving early in the morning, so I might not see you, but thank you for everything, Mom. And that's where we're going to end our episode. Now, I feel like this was a longer episode. I do. I feel like it was, but there was a lot I wanted to accomplish because in episode 4, I want to go out into the village. I want to do some battle encounters. I want to have Finn and Patch fight some stuff. I want to build some battle encounters to show you guys how it works and to kind of figure it out myself a little bit on how to do it. And I think that that's going to be fun. So we're done with the village and we're going out into the world. All right. We got some questions about the kingdom's crest. What does that look like? Also, names of the mysterious stranger. What might he be called? He needs a little bit of a name, and also other ideas and stuff. And hopefully I played the rules a little bit better in this episode. Let me know if you think I did and what you think about the stuff down there in the old comments section. And goodness, the cursed box is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, let me know if you guys have thoughts about that as well. But I think all is well. I think it's very good. And hopefully this video will actually go up the following week of the last one. So we're still kind of on schedule. And that's wonderful news. So thank you guys all so much for watching. And if you want to know more about what the heck I got going on, I think after this, I'm actually going to be recording an update video, which I think probably is actually going to go up the day before this. So hop over there and watch the update video to see how things are going. Make sure to check all the links down in the descriptions, links to everything. And by using those links, it helps support the show. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Whew. Big episode, but very cool. And hey, if you have any ideas, and if you're an artist that wants to draw some really cool fan art of Patch pulling a little cart or something like that, please join the Discord and share your art so we can share it all over social media. Please do so. I would love that so much. But for now, thank you guys all so much for watching. My friends, stay weird, take a seat on the couch, and roll initiative, at least for a little while. Roll that, weirdos. And I'll see you next time. And also, hey, that song that plays at the very end, I wrote that song and recorded it myself. You can actually check it out on Spotify. I'll leave a link down in the description. Heck yeah. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See ya.